So I'm gonna show you something. And then after I'm done with him, the rest of them won't play with me.
What about the Green Sports?
Woo! Look at that. Nice fresh air, man. Prince Sports here. And I want to come at you guys with my annual yearly list of the top 3 most overrated players. I do this every single year. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start off with number 3. None other than Ben Simmons himself. Okay, now you say, how could this guy be overrated? He hasn't even stepped foot on the court all year long. Well, that's a perfect reason. The fact that he is still presumed as an all-star, labeled as one, when he's really a highly glorified role player. It's actually a category that's starting off with these type of guys, because their level of play is more like a role player than it is for an all-star. Okay? So, and I think part of the fact that it was drafted real high has a lot to do with the fact that these guys are presumed to be something that they're not. But the reality of the situation is, rather it's the Lonzo Balls, the Andrew Wiggins, Ben Simmons, these guys are actually role players. All right, they perform like role players, they play like role players, but they get labeled as all-stars. And even right now with the media, you hear them overhyping Ben Simmons as if he's going to make a significant difference in terms of teams winning. Well, he had plenty of chances to do that when he was in Philly, and he even played with stacked teams, championship contending teams. And the only problem was you gave him the responsibilities of a fucking superstar when he's a role player. So that alone makes him overrated, combined with the hype that he gets from the media. All right, and this is the same guy who's also, you could make a good excuse for him being a liar. This guy did anything and everything, had Rich Paul in his ear, lying to the general public just to get off the Philadelphia 76ers. You had this problem, you had that problem. Well, where's these so-called mental problems now? Because you're hearing reports that you having confidence at an ultimate all-time high level. But you didn't have that in Philly, huh? Get the fuck out of here, all right? This all was a hoax, all a lie, just to get yourself out of the Philadelphia 76ers, because you had a rift with the coaches, you had a rift with the players, and your ego was so high that you couldn't take criticism from people. It wasn't no lack of confidence, it was your ego. The same ego you have now on the Brooklyn Nets, but you're still overrated, and you're a damn role player. So you come at number 3. Now, number 2 is none other than LeBron James himself, okay? Now, forget the fact that this guy played on a Big 3 super team that didn't even make the play-in or the postseason at all. It's the fact that everything this man does is hype, okay? He's got to a point where he's not a basketball player anymore. He's a brand. This is why LeBron James gets talked about on and off the court, because LeBron James is a brand to the NBA more than an NBA player. Okay, his face alone generates attention, and they use that brand that is LeBron James to promote him. But the problem is his level of play on the court don't equal that branding that you're giving him. His level of play on the court don't equal success on the basketball court. The level of brand that you give LeBron James don't equal to GOAT status. Even with him breaking records, because breaking records is meant to be broken. All right? You didn't say Kobe was the GOAT when he was breaking MJ scoring title records and dropping 50-point games, or any other player for that matter. Walt Chamberlain would have been labeled the GOAT. We just talking about records being broken. All right? But we moved the goalpost for LeBron James, because anything and everything he does is surrounded by hype, when he's really just a media puppet. He scores 50. Oh, he's the greatest basketball player of all time to score 50. But there's been plenty of older players to score 50 points. You weren't keeping that same energy for those guys that did it. Now, did you? All right? Him moving up on an all-time scorers list. You didn't say that for Karl Malone when Karl Malone was ranked number 2. Was he the GOAT when he was moving up on the scorers list? No. But you do it for LeBron James because he's a media puppet and he's media hype. All right? And he's pretty much just the face of NBA talk. More off the court than on the court. And that's the problem with LeBron James. The hype don't equal the success level that he has. And he's still falling behind the 8 ball right now as we speak. But that brings us down to number 1. Okay, so that brings us down to number one, numero uno. Who's the most overrated player right now playing in the NBA? Is none other than a guy that's masquerading as an all-star when he's really a role player, and that's Draymond Green. Draymond Green is the most overrated player probably in NBA history in terms of being selected as an all-star. All right, this man is a walking triple single. He is a role player. His level of play on the basketball court is that of a role player, but yet he constantly prompted up to being an all-star when he's really not. Okay, so he's flat out a role player, and just the name alone equals overhypeness. You know, I don't even want to fully get into it, but the fact that he's number one faced criteria for players that should be role players, but you guys call them all-stars. Just another problem with today's generation of NBA players. Too many players are hyped up to be all-stars when they really are role players, and that's number one on my list. Tell me if you agree or disagree with my list. If not, you know, whatever. Or if you do, you know what to do. Prince Sports out. Peace. Ready to play.